Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel for another Learning with Pros episode. Today I got the man who needs no introduction, Mr. Kyle Koszuta. What's up, dude? Thanks for joining.
Hey, I just before you ever kick off this video, y'all, everyone's watching this. We're gonna show some clips here of Braden. He's way better than I thought. These clips are amazing. I'm excited to. I didn't even know what to think, by the way. You sent me some clips to take a peek at. I'm like, holy cow, you're legit. And so I'm pumped to break some
I,
clips
I
down
don't
later.
know. I feel like this is double-sided, Kyle. One, like, thank you for the compliment, but two, it's like you didn't expect this.
No, that sounded mean. It's kind of like when you're like, wow, that shirt looks so good on you. It's like, yeah, I love the way you look today. Like, how did I look yesterday? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I came in with no expectation. Well, let me tell you, just a quick backstory is I've seen you hang out with Chris Olsen, and I'm like, well, if you hang out with him, obviously you're not good. And so
That's
then
fair.
I saw you playing, and I'm like, yeah, people, you get it, y'all get it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So if you by chance don't know who Kyle is, you started your own YouTube channel. What? It's been a couple of years now.
I think I looked it up the other day. I think it was like October 22nd, 2022
So
when I first
we're
started. So it's
pushing
been over
3 years.
2 years. Yeah, 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. So he has like this instructional channel. He's an extremely good player in his own right. Competes in a lot of open plays or open events at APP and other stuff. And you've have a very athletic background. You've always done sports. You're very good in front of a camera. The way you explain things is really sharp. And you recently, aside from your YouTube channel, started That Pickleball School.
Yes. Yes. Thanks for bringing it up. Well, actually, let me before the brief version of the pickleball school is I wanted to create like a structured place that would allow people to like come and learn in just a more systematic way. YouTube, I love YouTube, but it is a little all over the place. And so, in fact, I'll just show you really quick because I think it's cool to see. I'll do this in like 30
Yeah.
seconds. So I don't want to bore anybody. But
Yeah, pop it up.
it's like a really cool platform we have this on, and so we created a bunch of exclusive content that does not exist anywhere else. And so we created really, Braden, what it was is just we try to create this in a more curriculum based way, and so people who wanted to learn the game faster and in a more structured way could go through this in a very specific order. And so we literally start with serve, return, third shot decisions, and inside of each of these we have courses, videos that we've made. And then my favorite part of this whole thing probably is this pattern recognition library, which basically just, you hear people talk about patterns all the time, but no one has ever really broken it down that I've seen. And so I was like, all right, let me create this library of the most common patterns that happen. Like if you return the ball down the line, it's often going to be your third shot's going to be hit cross court. It's like once you see these things, you can't unsee them. And so it's been a really cool thing. And then I also just love this too. We have over 800 people in here. And so people are in here just engaging, sharing successes, challenges, asking questions. We have our team of coaches in here as well, just helping answer questions. And so it's sweet. Like I never expected to make something like this, but it's
Luke's in there. I know Luke.
yeah, it's been cool, man. It's like when you get a bunch of people who are obsessed with the game, which is way more people than I originally thought, into one place. They just want to talk strategy and learn the ins and outs of the game and kind of nerd out. I'm a huge pickleball nerd. That's really what I am. And so I've just taken my brain, my learnings from people I've spent time with, my own experiences, and then just try to put all of this into one place that's really easy to use on your phone, your computer. And that's what it's become. So we're still trying to make it as good as possible, but it's been a really fun thing.
Yeah, I love that. You gave me access to it a couple of weeks ago, and I've already watched through a handful of videos. One thing I appreciate about it, and just I'll put a link in the description if anyone wants to go check it out because it's really cool. I think you guys do like a monthly subscription or a yearly subscription.
Yep.
So you can kind of do whatever works for you, but definitely worth it. Highly recommend it. But yeah, when I was in there, one thing I appreciated was those pattern videos for the very reason you said is I hear the term patterns everywhere on every pro stream. That word always comes up. But yeah, no one says this is what the patterns are, and you do, and I like that.
Thanks.
And then the second part I liked is that it's more of like I think you used the term principle based, and so when you watch your videos, there's some technical elements to it, but it's not technical heavy. It's much more of this is how you think, this is how you play. These are the shots and patterns and things you look for. So it's based off these principles. So you can take these things into your own game, adapt it, use them how you need them, and improve that way. Because then you're not thinking in these rote, way. And so I like the principle based approach because I don't think I've seen that anywhere else. And it's refreshing and easy to take what you say and adapt it to my game because of the way you approach it that way.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, it was really just out of necessity because really when I started out, my technique everywhere was pretty bad. I was a basketball player, and it's still a lot of opportunity everywhere, so it wasn't my strength. But like when I played basketball, this is how I was. I was like, I'm not as athletic as these guys, but I tried to just beat them with IQ, and that was really how I could neutralize people in basketball. When I got to the college level. And so that's what it's been for pickleball for me. Like, we've been talking about some buddies of mine. They're just such great ball strikers, and I'm an okay ball striker. I mean, I miss hit every third one, so I guess that's okay. But if you can just figure out the strategies and just outthink people, that's really what it comes down to. And that's what the school has become, is like, how do we outthink people? And if we can outthink them and the strategy is kind of ahead of our technical will catch up to the strategy. Whereas, although if you're a big tennis player, you should probably just rip the ball at people because that works just fine too. So.
Yeah, it's super cool. And then of course the community element I thought was really, really sharp. But I've taken a few courses from other people, and they don't have that community element. And so I thought it was cool that you're bringing that in, where people can come to you, ask questions, and then you respond with a video of you talking and sharing it, so that every question people ask, there's always 10 other people that want to ask it too, right?
Yeah, for sure. And also, like, last thing on that. Oftentimes learning from me and my team are answering questions all the time, and with video responses and just written responses, but like learning from a person who just experienced that, if I'm 5 stages away from say like a 3-5 and they're learning something that a 4-0 just learned 2 weeks ago, often that person can give better input to that person's experience than the person that's 3, 4, 5 stages away, or different input, that could resonate. Yeah. So it's been a really cool thing how people have, I hoped it would be like this, and it has turned into that, where people are really supportive and just like, hey, I experienced that 2 weeks ago. Here's how I fixed it. And people are like, oh, shoot, I never thought of that, and it's really building into that. So it's neat. I'm trying to just create a global network of obsessed pickleball players. And so that's the journey we're on.
Yeah, you're on the right road, man. It's really cool. And the platform, the pieces are in place for sure. And I'm sure this video will just get you thousands.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you haven't already gone over to Braden's link in the description and signed up, then you're dead. As Mr. Wonderful would say, you're dead to me. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, awesome. Let's jump over to the meat and potatoes of our virtual lesson here. So I compiled a few points of some games I played. This was probably a month or two ago, but I only grabbed the ones of me on the right side because I wanted to focus this conversation and talk about how to be a better right side player. So before we jump into these points, I want to just get your thoughts on just how you would describe the roles of a left versus right side player, and then we'll jump into it.
Evolving, I think, is the way. I mean, most people will know, like, okay, Ben Johns and Colin Johns played a very specific style. And when the number one team in the world who's dominated the game is playing a specific style, it's normal that everybody will copy that style. And that's what we've been doing. Like Steph Curry, he's shooting a lot of threes, that everybody else will copy that style. And that's what's happened in the NBA. And so for much of pickleball, the left side player in general has been, and I'm going to assume 2 righties just for a moment. Like the left side player has been a more dominant player. Typically a player takes a little bit more court, takes more of the middle balls, all those things. And then what we're seeing more recently, if you watch, Alshon, I actually think Anna Lee was doing a lot of this stuff before all the guys were doing it, but Anna Lee, Alshon, Tardio, Hayden Patriquin, Dylan Frazier, like these guys have been playing slightly different than, the original mold, which is the right side player is not always just standing on the right side, letting the left side player do everything. They're standing in the middle more. There's more right side poaching. There's more backhand in the middle at times because that creates a different angle. And if you've ever played a righty-lefty combo, often you'll see certain angles from a lefty in the middle that you wouldn't see from a typical right-handed right side player. And so I think people are figuring out too that, okay, well, if a lefty can reach into the middle and do some really interesting stuff with their left, I have a pretty good backhand flick. I could do some of those similar angle type shots. Now, probably not with as much power, but it's just a different look. So how to define the role? I probably need ChatGPT to give me a great one-liner of everything I just said. But I think I don't know what else to say.
No, that's good. I totally agree. And, up until this point, sometimes or I think I've played more of a Colin John's right side, and it's like, okay, how do I evolve? I think part of it is me potentially being a little more aggressive, stepping in, looking to take some shots that I can do something with. But part of it's probably communication with the left side player, knowing that I'm going to do that and allow opportunities for me to come in. And so I don't know. We'll kind of talk through that. I think positioning is a big part of understanding or just being effective in a partnership, left side, right side. Thinking
Yeah.
that way. And so
Yeah.
we'll see some clips here, and maybe you'll be able to point out some places like, oh, Braden, maybe you could have stepped in more, or maybe you need to step away here. But let's jump into the points.
Yeah. Perfect. Let's do it. And I'm probably going to ask you some questions here just to get your thought process as we go.
Yep.
And so, yeah, here we go. I mean, even on this one right here, let me just ask you, and if I'm stopping too much, tell me, but like, so ball comes in, drive comes in, and if I'm just focusing on you for a second, okay, I'll go slow motion. So when the ball goes there for a second, like, did you think you were going to take that?
Yes. So whenever the ball is at that spot where it could go either way, I think I'm a little hesitant. I was okay. Do I go take this or do I give them space? I think I default giving them space. But yeah, I think I was kind of just stepping back, getting out of his way, giving him some room to take that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's fine. And then I think just another court positioning thing to consider. And so if we play this out, like you watch you stay back, you stay back. Okay, very passive role, right? Like in this position, and we're isolating 1 point, and people don't know, tendencies and stuff. But yeah, go ahead.
I do this all the time.
Yeah, so I watched that clip a little bit, and I'm like, all right, in this scenario, and this is what I'm always thinking, and like this would be one of those patterns I would share in the school. Like in this scenario, okay, your partner's got a pretty good drive. It's probably going to be better than your backhand drop or drive, whatever you do here. Okay, so in this scenario, one of the things you could do is you could actually like roll around in like a banana. And if your partner's good, which he is, he's going to hit the ball at this person in the blue, right? So instead of staying back and being cautious here, he's about to hit the ball while your opponent is still on the move. Okay. And so you have a perfect poaching angle here. Not to say to do it every single time. Like if the ball would return deeper, or maybe the guy was already up at the kitchen, but this is the perfect scenario. So if you like were to roll around in the banana, and let's say instead of right in this position right here, and you're standing maybe 2 feet behind the kitchen line, you're putting so much more pressure on this guy's fourth than he currently feels. Right now, he has all the space in the world to work.
Yep.
And so I think historically, the right side player has not applied a ton of pressure, a bunch of like third shot, movement pressure. Like if your partner's taking the third, what are you doing? The player will typically stay back. But I think right here would be a good opportunity that you could move forward a little bit. And I think that's just one example.
So one question for that is that a little bit dependent of knowing or understanding what my partner's abilities are?
Yes.
In this scenario, I agree. Yes, he can do that. But then there's also the element of, kind of hit and assess a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in some scenarios, if like here, his name's Daryl, he's a really good player. The percentage is going to be high. I think I can be more aggressive that way, but like, would there be scenarios where I shouldn't be as aggressive there, and knowing that maybe the third isn't going to be as good?
Yeah. I mean, okay, I was playing with Greg Dow this morning. If Greg Dow's the one running in there on that right, I probably would be a little bit more tentative because his backhand is so dang good. And so, yeah, the whole game is assessment. And that's why I think you mentioned the principle-based thinking. It's all reads all the time. And that's where I think I'm trying to get better at this all the time too. Like, when should I take a more aggressive approach as the player not hitting the ball? And I would look at factors. I would look at how good is my partner's drive? How short is the return? Does my partner typically hit it to the location I think they're going to hit it to?
Yeah,
and if not,
that's the stuff I want to hear. That's
then we should communicate about it. How slow up to the kitchen is the person in the blue, right? And so I think the way I think about this more and more is I'll think about those factors, but I'll also, like you said, I will never overlook the quality of my partner's like ability, right? Like your partner,
Sure.
Daryl here, if he's consistently hitting good drives in his return here, like this is an okay return. It's not, honestly, Daryl's inside the court, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to read as the player not hitting the ball. the moment the ball gets hit by that guy in blue, I'm trying to immediately make an assessment.
This could be a weaker return. I could be aggressive here.
Yes, right. And so I would already probably be bananaing. And now,
so my assessment isn't necessarily when he hits the ball; it's at the return.
Well, if your assessment's when he hits the ball, you're not going to be up there in time.
Yep.
Right. And so you're going to potentially get burned at times, right? Like maybe Daryl hits one high and then the guy in blue cranks it at your feet. Well, that's a possibility. But all these things are trade-offs and they all inform other things. So like if Daryl misses it high, well, that's not necessarily a bad choice you made to move forward. You read everything that you know. You know Daryl's good. You know it's a short return. The guy's slow getting in. You made the right read for that moment. And I think that's what I'm always trying to think of is, was my decision sound, independent of the outcome we got? Like if we did that 7-10 more times, how many of those are we going to win? And I think in this scenario, pretty high percentage based on what we just saw. One more thing on this is like, we're one clip in, sorry. I get excited about this, but let's say you step in, like you're going to be able to handle that reset 2 steps in. And if you're not, then that's informative of you probably should like work on your resets, right? And I think that's where like you put strategy sometimes ahead of your technical stuff, is like doing the right thing over and over and over will inform what technical skills you really need to improve. And so, yeah, that's a good thing though. But like if that return is deep, like if that return is deep, then don't run in. Like JW and Dylan, when they were playing together, JW would drive a third, Dylan would rarely poach on it because they were just going to play the odds to get to the kitchen and hit a fish shot drop, which is just fine too. But again, what's the level you're playing? Like if Christian Alshon's coming in and it's a pretty deep return, like he's not just going to let you into the kitchen. So if you run in, you're becoming a target. And I think that's the constant balance that we're playing, is like on the third shot when you're not the one hitting. It's a constant balance and it's a constant assessment.
But I like the general principle or an idea of assessing earlier, because in this specific scenario, I could have read that, a full second before I did and applied more pressure there. And I think my default mode is wait and see versus being a little more, what do you call it? Predicting.
Yeah, just make a prediction earlier and just take some risk. Like I think, especially in a rec game, you just have to take a little more risk, and you need to like overextend at times to realize what your limit is. Because if you've never actually gone to your limit, then you just have a theory of what the limit is. And so I would even say sometimes overdo it and like, oh shoot, that probably was too much. That return was too deep. I got in too much. I'm not actually that good of a poacher on the right side. Like the odds were not for me, So.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. My third shot here.
I mean, no, I know we're going in and I'll just keep going, but like this is really, really smart by you. Just like a great reset to a great location. I think it's just highly underrated. As the right side player, you're often going to be the one hitting the 5th or the 7th. In this case, he hits it back to you, but like, or the 5th or the 7th. Often the ball will ricochet back to you. So your awareness here is this is such an underrated skill. I'm harping on it because it's important. Like you hit the ball to where he's not, and it's his backhand. If you hit that ball back to where most people would hit that ball, and this is a little higher level, like this requires some higher skill. But if you hit that ball back to the middle, you're going to be feeling a lot of pressure from the forehand, right? So you do that, you get to the kitchen, it's good. It's fine. Like even right here, I would change your court positioning, right? Like look where you're standing. You're standing way over there. It's like the ball's not going over there. You know where the ball's going is. It's going towards your partner. He's the one moving in, right? And so this is just
left foot on the center line.
Yeah, I would move over. And now if your backhand flick is horrible, I probably would just let your partner take it. But like I'm usually going to be moving over, like leaning in, looking to hunt the 4th with a backhand. That's what a lefty would be doing. They wouldn't be standing way over. Now you wouldn't get you weren't going to get that ball, but yeah.
What scenario do I not maybe, I guess, use the word cheat or step that far left? Like if he returns that maybe to the backhand of the guy in blue, do you still?
No, I'd still stand there.
And that's still stand there. You still stand there?
Because the only way I wouldn't stand there, maybe not as far to the middle if the ball's like way over toward the sideline, but I wouldn't go cheat over to the sideline because unless this is like Connor Garnett's backhand, which most people don't have that. And if it is, you definitely have to cover your line. But even so, like, I think we often our court coverage, we move ourselves around the court as if they're about to hit it down our line all the time. So like right side players would just slide over to the sideline, but like that's not where the ball's typically going to go. Like a cross court dink is often where the ball's going to go more often. So I'm just trying to put my body in a position where I think the ball's going to go the most.
What's the basketball term? Off ball pressure, off ball movement.
Exactly. It's off ball pressure. It's off ball pressure.
Yeah, I like that. Think more that way, because you could be a presence, right?
It's such a good topic, and it's actually it's one of the things I'm constantly working at. It's one of my strengths is off ball pressure and off ball movement. Because I'm not as good of a ball striker. I mean, I'm fine, but I'm not an elite ball striker. But I do think I'm way better at off ball movement, off ball pressure, like giving some jabs, but also just putting myself in a position that closes the gap. It's like if we're fighting each other, and I'm 6 feet away from you, you're not very nervous that I'm going to hurt you. But if I get into your face, you get a lot more nervous that I might actually hit you, you know? And I'm trying to be in their face more often or in their vision more often. So they are thinking, where am I going to hit this? And if I miss it, like, is it going to be like punished by the other guy? Not just, I have all this open court. I can hit it anywhere I want.
Yeah. I like that.
I love that dink, by the way. That's such a Tardio dink.
That's probably what I could have done earlier.
I think so.
Speed up.
Yeah. I think that's probably a smarter play.
Yeah, I was pushing the left a little bit there, and kind of gave that shot, made that an option.
This is a very uncommon dink, right? Very uncommon. And if everyone watching just hits this dink a little bit more, I promise you, the player right in front of you, this is like not an super easy dink. It takes a little bit to get this going, but like you have a really, really loose wrist, just let the ball. I mean, it's really sick by you. This player is going to miss that dink a lot, and they're just this guy didn't, but
yeah, that can create some opportunities, I think.
That's good, Bob.
It's kind of the end of the point there.
Yeah. Yeah. So there, I kind of I thought, I think that's okay.
Same opportunity.
Yeah, I think
as before.
I think it's like, if I was in this specific scenario, I would tell my partner, I'd say, hey, if we get a ball to the middle here, take it with your forehand, Daryl, and drive it, right it over at this guy. He's sitting backhand, and so last time he did it, he kind of chicken winged him. So I would say, Daryl, drive it at his line. I'm going to close the middle. That
was a good observation. I didn't pick that up earlier.
Yeah,
the chicken wing. He is sitting heavy.
I mean, most people are, but like both these guys are, right? So both these guys are sitting. I sit backhand most of the time, but both these guys are sitting backhand all the time. So I think that's, gosh, again by you though. It's so good. Just like awareness. Where should I hit the ball here? Okay, the guy in front of you, he's way over to the middle. It's a common mixed doubles thing. If there's the right side. You're playing a guy who's on the left, like this guy here, and you're playing mixed. This scenario happens all the time. It's good. It's a good dink by him. Yep.
Yeah, I just got that one.
You're good at that, though. You're really good at that.
Except that one I missed.
Yeah.
And when it's tight to the feet.
That's a good dink. Go ahead.
Is that a footwork thing?
I think you just missed it. I mean, I think you thought maybe you could take it out of the air, and last second you didn't. But it's a great spot. That's what it is. So more often when I'm playing on the right, I don't dink cross to cross as much. And I think to be a really great right side player, what I'm seeing more and more in my own experimentation and watching others is you have to be a threat with the forehand off the bounce and out of the air. It's the highest percentage off the bounce attack is the forehand attack, especially from the right. And it's also the hardest counter for the person who's like, if we're looking at you here and we're talking about this player, if you get a ball over to your forehand and you never pull it, this guy is just off the hook. It's a really hard counter. He sits backhand. He has to make a decision, like, do I hit a backhand? Do I open up to a forehand? It's so hard. It's one of the things that a lot of pros are constantly working on. I'm working on it all the time because it's hard. So anyway, back to that. You have to have off the bounce offense. And if you do, people won't dink it to your forehand as much. And so more spots will go to what we just saw.
And that can create chances for your partner.
Yeah, big chances.
As well, if they're not going to that forehand all the time.
100%. I mean, watch any pro match right now with men's doubles, and you'll see very little cross court to cross court dinking. If you're, just people don't put the ball there as much because it's so dangerous. Yeah, I like that there. That's kind of that same one. I like the charge in. I think you went inside out from below the net, and I think that inside out in this scenario isn't going to work as well consistently as if you went more toward the inside where he's going to get chicken winged here. I think the inside out again is going to work a little better when the ball's above the height of the net. because look what his paddle does. He's literally just sitting right there. So
Yep.
the difference between you getting a pop up and him putting back a decent counter is just the spot you chose to hit it to.
Yeah, I think on those ones where I'm kind of rushing in a little bit, I'm not thinking as much location as I should be. I I'm just like, oh, go hit it hard.
Yeah. Well,
And the only time I'm really thinking location is more the traditional kitchen speed up.
Well, you don't need to be thinking location like right at this moment right here because you're probably blacked out in this moment. You know, I think
Yeah.
I would be thinking location in between points. Okay, I see that, or on the drive to this game. If you know these guys, okay, I know these guys sit chicken wings. So when I go for the forehand attack, like I'm just gonna like visualize it real quick. It's gonna be go inside hip more often. If I'm on the left side, I'm playing this guy. I'm probably gonna drive this line more often. And I'm just going to predetermine those targets. And then I'll usually have starting targets when I go out there. Like, here's where I'm going to start. And I'm going to see how they handle it. And then I'll make adjustments based on what I see. But most people don't have targets at all. They're just hitting it hard. And the difference between winning the point and losing the point's often just where you hit it. So,
Yeah, I mean, these are all guys I play all the time. And I have a little, notes in my phone of stuff like that. I need to like review those and think of those 1-2 bullet points. Okay, in this scenario, these are the targets, and build that into the system before I start the game.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't spend 5 minutes before this rec game thinking, then you're just like you're not taking advantage of how good you could play. Like even it's like literally 5 minutes on the way there thinking, or 5 minutes like when you get there, just like looking at like a notepad. I do this all the time.
That can be done in the car.
It's so simple. Like it doesn't need to be. Yeah.
What's the tennis guy's name? Brad.
Oh, that's where I got it from. Brad Gilbert, Winning Ugly.
Yeah, I was like, I swear I've heard that. That was his point. That's good. Do it in the car.
It's so simple.
Like, this is who I'm playing today. So, like, give me a couple things you might think about in the cars. Okay, it's locations. Is it like what other things?
Okay, I'll tell you. I'll just tell you. This morning I was playing, and so before I played, I'm working on some off the bounce speed up stuff on the right. So I'm playing the right in my next few tournaments. And so I went out and I just was like, all right, when I get this ball, I'm going to start with this target. I know the guys I'm playing. I know how they counter. And the crazy thing is, like, I did it and it worked like exactly how I thought it was going to work. And it just like happened more often because I was looking for it. So that was one thing. Like, where am I going to speed up from off the bounce when I get good off the bounce targets? The second one was just like, where am I going to drop today when I drop? Just because okay, often we'll drop to the guy running in, but also like if, it was Greg Dow and Cade Niemoff were on the other side. And so I'm like, all right, if Greg's on the right, I'll probably consider doing this just because he's a little bit longer. If Caden's on the right, I'll probably consider this because he's shorter. Like that was a consideration. And then I'll give you one more thing that was on my mind. These are very specific, but when I'm unwinding the stack from the left side over to the right, I will like unwind from the left and I'll, you hit the ball from the left and you run over to the right. And I almost always will sit backhand on the run. And I got hurt on that in the tournament, my last tournament. So I was like, I hit it, I'm running, and they hit the ball, they drive it at me, and I'm sitting backhand, and I'm not quite in a good position. And so today I was like, all right, every unwind, not every, but most of the unwinds, I'm going to return it cross because I want him to drive it at me because I want to get reps on that. And then I'm gonna run across and I'm gonna sit forehand because I want to be like ready to just punch. And so that was just a very, very specific situation that I was hurt on.
That's good.
And I did it. And I went out there, and not every time, but the first time I didn't do it, I was like, shoot, that was the one. Yeah.
And
so I know what
I'm sure.
Know what I got better at.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I'm sure everyone listening has one or two things like that they should think about going in combination with the black book type stuff.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, maybe just if you're listening, like if you're like go into a session and try to understand a couple of things, like where are you going to drop the ball more likely? Like, okay, what's a good target? Like in this situation, this guy's left foot's a good target because he's a righty and it's his backhand. It's like you can get him jammed maybe in the middle. Dropping to this guy's backhand could be a good location. That's good. And then another one would be like, all right, if I'm in trouble and they're pounding the ball at me, what would be a good safe zone location? Which is, I think, what you do really nicely. Like, I'm in trouble, and typically it's obviously the same spots that I just said, right? I'm under pressure. How do I get out of it? And then, the other thing for you would be like, if you go into a game, like, okay, I'm playing the right today. I'm going to try to make good reads, earlier assessments on when I should move into the kitchen and when I should stay back fully. And so I think those are just some ideas as well.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah.
Kyle, we're already 30 minutes in. Do
Oh
you
my
still have a
gosh.
few minutes?
Oh, I'm
Are we
totally
good?
good. I could talk about this all day.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
If you have any,
Yeah.
if you have minutes.
No, this is so great. Normally I try to keep these around 20, 30, but like I selfishly want to hear more Kyle Koszuta stuff from these points.
No, let's go. I mean, I have fun watching it because it's always helpful for me that even I was literally thinking about this morning and I was taking some notes after my game. And so I was just like, this is helpful. Okay, let me give you one more thing here that I think is something it's top of mind for me. So from a court positioning standpoint, when you're on the right. So what happens a lot of times is this player right here will hit, I love it. He has a roll dink, right? We'll hit a roll dink over here, right? And then what would you typically do in that situation if that roll dink goes over there?
I would maybe scooch a little bit right and just kind of sit backhand is my default.
Yeah. Okay. So let's actually reverse engineer this for a second. Okay, that's good. Now, after this roll dink, what type of shot is this guy typically gonna hit?
It's either gonna dink back cross court, is what I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So this is kind of the out of the ordinary situation where he you just got caught a little bit on awkward position. Often this is going to be a short hop. So if this guy hits a really aggressive backspin dink, topspin dink, Daryl does, often the player across is going to, unless they're like way off the line, if it's a good dink, they're going to short hop the ball. And so what happens then is they often short hop it like right in front of you. So what I would do in this situation, and I do this a lot when I'm playing with just good guys with roll dinks, is I would just stay exactly where you're staying, okay? Or even slightly over to the left. And
just like bait them forehand?
Yeah. But if the dink's really good, it's going to be really hard to dink it there. I just learned this watching Gabe Tardio. This is where he stands. And so the ball will be dinked. And so instead of like bringing he speeds it up at you, which is unfortunate for this example. But I would just start hunting the ball to come in this little area right there. So literally like the moment I have a paddle. Hold on. So like the moment that roll dink goes, let's see if I can, right? I'm literally leaning in. If it's a good dink, if it's a bad dink, I'm not doing this. But if it's a good roll dink, I'm literally leaning in, hunting for the next ball. Okay. If my partner like hits a dead dink, I'm gonna probably take a step back and
but that's a chance to be aggressive, look for something.
It's a chance to be aggressive and look for something. And then I wish I could like maybe draw an arrow on this, but a lot of times what happens in this situation too is if it's a really good dink, he will just dink it down the line, but it will be dead. Again, this is all about
recover quick.
You can recover and or step back and speed it up. And so I think you're just like the typical right side guy is like, okay, my left side guy, or girl is just gonna dink it cross. But I'm like, where can I move my body to basically manipulate my opponent? If I'm standing here, he's gonna start thinking about what he should do. And if I start thinking about what he's thinking about, then I'm probably gonna be ahead of him. Right? And so you just like move your position slightly.
I like that.
You just get kind of jammed up there. That's actually pretty. I watched it like 6 times where I was like, how did this even happen? I don't know. That was honestly just a pretty good speed up. Let's just watch it one more. No, I was kidding. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, it's good. No, and often like maybe you decide your left side partner, you do want him to take more court. Like that's a strategy as well. But.
Yeah, I think in that specific scenario where they're back a little bit and there's time for Daryl to step in, I think he could do more damage than I can. And is that okay to think that way? If
you don't like, how's your backhand roll? Is it not very good?
It's good, but Daryl can do it better.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I would be really curious. I think that's a limiting belief you have about yourself, and we can talk about that offline. Okay. But no, just kidding. But what I would love to see you do is step over to the middle. You're probably not getting this ball because it's a little bit far over there. But let's say ball goes to the middle. This is what the lefties used to get me on. It's still a really hard ball. Step in there with your backhand and roll it back to his backhand. Okay, that's a really tough ball because it's just kind of a weird ball. Like, let's see what he does here. All right, so that's like such a, I mean, that was a good drop though. But I would just say, so slide over to the middle, reach in with your backhand, hit it back diagonal towards this area, and just watch them miss the next dink a lot, or pop up the next one, and then you can get out of the way. So I think that's just a good pattern that I've noticed works a lot. And that's just another thing is like, just gotta try things and then try to remember what works and do more of them. Great dink. You're really good at this, by the way. This is your touch around the kitchen, I think, is like one of your superpowers. Your just ability to reach in and kind of manipulate the spots. Okay, like look at that. You kind of, I guess maybe you sped up the last one. You were nervous about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that one was a little higher. Maybe could have done something with.
Yeah, it could have been, yeah, a little bit floatier. See what I'm just trying to see, like, could you have sped that one up maybe? That's okay. I mean, I will say, like, I'm doing this for myself, and I consider it for you. Like, take a little
Mhm.
more risk, and I think just try to understand. Like, I got a chance to I have a YouTube video coming out with Anna Lee, depending on when people see this video, and so we played rec afterwards, and just like being on court with her, I hadn't been on court with her in a long time, and she's just always a threat from every location, always a threat from every location, and like I guarantee you that Anna Lee would have sped this ball up, and I guarantee you she would have sped that ball up. You know,
Where
and
does she speed it up to?
okay, well,
Like, I don't even see that as an opportunity.
well, it's a good question. So, like, let's see. I mean, she the answer is she could speed it up everywhere because she but really. So, like, you could let's see.
Because like in that specific scenario, I think I'm off the court a little bit, and if I speed that up, the counter options for those guys are like wide open.
Yeah, I yes, I agree with you. I think you're kind of
Like,
on your back foot
do I have
here.
to be Anna Lee level to do that,
No,
or could
I
I do
think
that?
you need to have better, just like faster feet a little bit. So, like here, you just don't have the footwork in this moment of a speed up. So maybe even trying to get a little bit more behind the ball. Maybe this isn't the perfect example, but or let me ask you a question: does this guy counter two-handed backhand, or does he counter one-handed backhand?
It's kind of either or, usually one.
Okay, perfect. So like, no, that would work perfectly fine. If you do this more, you play these guys again. Hopefully, they're not watching this. I would that again. This one might be you're kind of on your back foot, so I probably would have tried to get a little bit more behind the ball. But even so, if you put the ball not in purely in the middle, but put it like 6 inches off this guy's elbow,
Mhm.
right here, that's going to be a tough counter. And also, have you ever sped that ball up before? I mean, if not, maybe just like
I guess I gotta see.
yeah, it's just that's where I'm trying to like push myself personally. I'm like, all right, you got to take a little more risk. I've been such a safe player for so long. Like I'm high percentage. I take the right shot. I'm a good counterer, but yeah.
Yeah.
I also wonder
Yeah,
if
I do think it's a balance of taking more risk within my capability, because my footwork's okay, but I'm not super fast either, and I wonder if that kind of limits me in some scenarios.
yeah, yeah. And I'm not saying like be erratic and stuff. I think what I'm saying more than anything outside of the speed ups, and it's just so top of mind for me is like look for opportunities to attack. And when you have them,
Hmm.
because you're always in, and then just kind of find your limit. Like if you don't have the ability yet, that's where you look at like a 3-5 or a 4-0, and they attack everything all the time, every time. And it's like, hey, like you're off balance. That's ball was 2 inches off the ground, and you're actually not that good yet. Okay, so like all those things play into it. But and even on that one, maybe I don't know, maybe you could have leaned in. It's not even as much about if you could have done it on that one. It's more like, hey, are you going to look for it?
Yeah,
Good
I
thinking
think that
though.
way a little bit. I mean, certainly at this level, I do think there are moments where I am a bit passive, and I wait for like an easier opportunity rather than creating.
Yeah, me too.
Somehow developing some of that more.
Well, why'd you speed this one up? What do you think?
Let me see it.
Let's see it one more time.
Maybe because I saw that down the line. Maybe I saw a gap. I
Yeah,
do like that down the line speed up. I do that a lot.
yeah,
And Colin in particular, that guy in front of me, he does squeeze more than others and kind of opens that
yeah.
lane sometimes.
Yeah, it's good, man. This is so good by you. That's another. That's where you again. That's where you like are so good. It seems like this is just such good recognition. This would be one of those examples of if I'm in trouble, where might I hit the ball? Okay, good. And then you drive this one down the line. I mean, that's
Yeah, one thing I've been thinking about lately is I don't have to go 100% on every drive shot or whatever. If there's space, just hit
yeah,
the gap.
yeah, yeah. Gosh, so much of this is spots too. Like you have such good length, and so trying to use your length, like what I would probably try to coach you into more is like more of this if you could, like the ones we were talking about before, the off the bounce speed ups. I thought maybe the second one prior you could have taken that one out of the air, like right here, So like for example, let me just go
Yeah.
back real quick, 'cause I actually think this is something that you should do right away. Um, it's on this one I think. So you hit this dink right. It was one more back. Okay, so you hit this dink. We'll go slow motion here, and you put it right to an amazing spot, and it's a great dink, right? And then you kind of stayed back. It looks like, and the ball lands. It looks like,
It's right on the line-ish.
yeah. So it's like it's a pretty deep.
Had
dink.
I been on the line, maybe I could have reached. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same principle back to the thirds we were talking about. Like you're trying to make assessments as early as possible. So if you read this right off the bat, you're like, oh wow, I hit a really solid dink, and I know it off my paddle. It's good topspin. It's to a good spot. I would then step into the kitchen and hunt.
Oh yeah.
You hunt the out of the air, and so that is so underrated. Like you don't need to look for balls out of the air if your dink was so bad. Like if you hit a floaty dink, don't lean, don't move in, step back.
Don't dink and lean. Yeah.
But if you hit a great dink, go hunt for the ball by getting up to the kitchen, and especially with your length, leaning. And I think that's, yeah.
I like that a lot. That makes a lot of sense. It kind of goes back to the earlier where I'm more reactive than predictive. And if I recognize, okay, I hit a good dink, it has top, there's pressure there. Maybe I earn something and get in a position where I can take advantage of it.
For sure. I mean, it's a little bit like you're reading the story, but like you could probably write the story a little bit more. And
yeah, there we go. That's the analogy.
This right here is so good. And the only reason you didn't win this point right off the bat is just the spot you chose. All right. So again, you probably weren't thinking about this. So
yeah, I think I'm just trying to hit that hard.
yeah. So like, okay, here's a good example, right? So ball's here. I'll tell you where if you decide to hit that ball not directly in the middle, which is where most people are going to hit it, just naturally, that's where the ball's going to go. If you decide to hit that ball slightly like out of this guy's reach, but over in this zone, right? So he has
that same spot where you were saving for that speed up earlier.
Yes,
like 6 inches off that right side.
Yeah, because like this, everybody's going to cover the middle. It's obvious. I mean, it's not even obvious. It's just what we do naturally. We kind of read that well, human nature. But then put it closer to this guy's right foot, or you could take the ball outside of his stance. You'll win that way as well. So just don't like hit it through the middle. People hit it through the middle way too much, and that's just a cover that people are good at. It's really small things like in so many ways. Like even that was a good one too. But yeah, I would really lean in for you of looking for a lot more aggression out of the air and just trying to get really good. Like this would be a bread and butter shot for you if you could lean. Like Dylan Frazier's so good at this. Watch him do this a lot. He's so good at leaning in and just like speeding up, which is like a boom, right? So it's full spin. It's not about pace, but he can take it from lower heights because he's not even generating enough power usually for it to go out because he's not taking a swing, right? So it's just like boom, boom, boom. And so I think with your length, you'll be able to get a lot more of those. And it's also pretty deceptive because you're not taking big swings. And like big swings are tells. And wrist movements usually freak people out, you know? So anyway, sorry, awesome. I love some film. So I went off there. That was a lot.
No, that was money. I think we'll close it right there. Kyle, thank you for jumping on. So many good things. I don't even know how to recap it. I need to go rewatch and pull out some of those nuggets, but really appreciate you, man. And again, anyone, obviously Kyle is really good at teaching and seeing and explaining things. Go check out his That Pickleball School, link in the description. Good luck at your tournaments coming up.
Thanks. Braden, you're the man. This was fun. You're so much better than Chris Olsen, by the way. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'll clip that and send that to him.
Okay. See ya.
All right, see ya.